Jewish Channel's Week in Review. This man loses his job after suggesting Israel might want to assassinate President Barack Obama. Gabrielle Giffords says she won't seek re-election. The latest trends in funerals and more of the Jewish news that's changing your world right now in this episode of the Week in Review. Hello and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. The idea of assassinating President Barack Obama has become the lead news in the Jewish world this week. It was floated as a potential solution to war with Hezbollah and Hamas in the weekly column of Atlanta Jewish Times publisher Andrew Adler. While the column only ran in the newspaper's print edition July 13th, it was brought to light by Gawker.com's John Cook in a post last Friday. In the column, Adler wrote that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had three potential responses to the possibility of a full military conflict with Hezbollah and Hamas. The third one is the one that floated the possibility of assassination. Here's what he wrote. 3. Give the go-ahead for U.S.-based Mossad agents to take out a president deemed unfriendly to Israel in order for the current vice president to take his place, and forcefully dictate that the United States policy includes its helping the Jewish state obliterate its enemies. Yes, you read 3 correctly. Order a hit on a president in order to preserve Israel's existence. Think about it. If I have thought of this Tom Clancy-type scenario, don't you think that this almost unfathomable idea has been discussed in Israel's most inner circles? You have got to believe, like I do, that all options are on the table. While the column stopped short of actually advocating for Obama's assassination, the distinction was lost when Gawker ran with the headline, "Newspaper editor Israel should consider assassinating Obama." Condemnations of Adler's column are too many to detail, but include the Anti-Defamation League and the Simon Wiesenthal Center. Adler was invited to appear on Atlanta Interfaith Broadcasting, where he offered a tear-filled apology.
I apologize to everybody out there who I've hurt. In no way or my intention to do that. I was basically writing the column to draw interest, I guess, to the Iranian situation and to get people's reaction to it. And by no ways, means, shape, or form to suggest, advocate, or anything that I wrote. Do I wish I took it back? Yes. Was it a keyboard in the mouth? Yes, it was. All I can do right now is just let President Obama the state of Israel, everybody affected, the Atlanta Jewish community. I'm sincerely sorry for what has transpired.
The local Jewish Federation in Atlanta condemned his remarks and called for Adler to step down and either relinquish all editorial responsibilities or sell the newspaper, saying that the Federation would end its relationship with the newspaper if those conditions were not met. In an email reported by JTA, Adler said on Monday he is, quote, relinquishing all day-to-day activities effective immediately, and promoted staff writer John McCurdy to the position of managing editor. While the JTA initially reported that Adler was selling the paper, the business manager told CNN that the paper is not for sale. In the interest of full disclosure, the Jewish Channel maintains a business relationship with the Atlanta Jewish Times and is an advertiser in the newspaper. And while the surprising rhetoric regarding violence against the president will hopefully never be acted upon, there is more news from an actual political assassination, the shooting of Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords last year in the head at an event in which 6 others were killed by alleged gunman Jared Loughner. Giffords announced in a video this week that she will not be seeking re-election in 2012. The video is the largest public statement from Giffords since the assassination attempt. In the video, the still recovering Giffords speaks haltingly of her struggles and her hopes for the future.
I don't remember much from that horrible day. Thank you for your prayers and for giving me time to recover. I have more work to do on my recovery, so to do what is best for Arizona. I will step down this week. I'm getting better.
Moving on, the valuable culture that can be spawned from even the worst events is in evidence in the works that blossomed in what was then Czechoslovakia after the Holocaust. Christian Needham reports.
The foundations and legacy of Terezin's famous artistic output were examined in depth this past weekend at 92Y Tribeca as Czech documentarian Martin Schmock put Terezin in context with a public lecture featuring a wealth of rare photos of life for Czech Jews living first under Nazi and then Soviet occupation. All of this was part of 92Y's larger series, Will to Create, Will to Live, The Culture of Terezin, and it was a culture that didn't begin or end with Terezin itself. It was the Jewish youth that entered Terezin who would later live out its cultural legacy after the war. And Schmock noted that the crucial pre-war ingredient of what would become a Zionist legacy was the Nazi decision to outlaw education for Czech Jews. This decree led Jews to create secret illegal schools, many of which promoted Zionist ideals.
Haksharot were the retraining courses which were to prepare the youth for settling in Palestine in the kibbutzim. If it wasn't for the anti-Jewish legislation and oppression, most of them would have never learned Hebrew and would have never joined the Zionist movements.
But the main center of Jewish youth culture in occupied Prague was a place called Hagibor.
Hagibor was a sports stadium of the Hagibor Sporting Club, and it was one of the 3 public spaces where Jewish youth could go. This is the first Shomriat at Hagibor, which was the Jewish Zionist under occupation version of the Olympiad. And you have a girls' team competing in the Shomriat.
To hear more about Terezin in context and the treatment of post-war Jewry in Soviet Czechoslovakia, please tune into the full broadcast edition of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Christian. Of course, celebrating the loved ones we lose can be done in many ways, and thanks to new technology, that's being done in even more ways, as Meredith Gansman found.
In today's digital age, even the oldest Jewish traditions, like attending a funeral or paying a shiva call, are changing for our high-speed online world.
Plaza Community Chapel in Manhattan, which introduced the ArtSight app, has been at the forefront of this new trend of virtual mourning. In order to reach those unable to attend a funeral, Plaza Community Chapel has been webcasting funeral services for families for the past 9 years.
The first service that we streamed was for a grandmother who died, and her grandson was doing semester abroad in Barcelona.
Governed by a board of rabbis, Gary and the staff at Plaza Community Chapel were careful that any new innovation in funeral services or mourning rituals would not break tradition.
One of the things that we needed to be careful about was we wanted to make sure that people would continue to attend funerals and they wouldn't just, watch a funeral online.
In addition to funeral webcasts, Sitting Shiva has gone virtual as well. CarePages.com connects people during times of health crisis or in mourning. The site's David Siegel explained how the website allows people to surround and to support family members online through sharing photos, stories, and messages for their loved ones.
To be able to go online and to be able to see other people who have gone through either similar health conditions as you and search for those health conditions, which one can do on Care Pages, or go through similar grieving experiences as you and hear about how they survived and how they made it through, is a wonderful way in which a virtual Shiva is incredibly additive and really complementary to the concept of Shiva.
But what do rabbis think of virtual mourning?
We prefer, obviously, that when there's a Shiva, that a person confront, a person be there in person, because you want someone to talk to, you want to look at someone. And that's the ideal. But where that can't be, then there's an alternative.
To see how new techie additions to Jewish funeral and mourning traditions continue to develop, tune into the full broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Meredith. Finally, with the appointment of Orthodox Jew Jacob Lew as Chief of Staff to President Barack Obama, we convened a panel of leading Orthodox political professionals to discuss how he'll handle the sometimes competing obligations of strict observance to Orthodox regulations and service to the President and people of the United States. Here are the highlights.
Well, I think the one thing that's remarkable that really should be said is that politics and government is increasingly a 24/7 business. And the way the blogosphere and the internet makes information move, 25 hours off is really an eternity in this business. So the fact that somebody can cram everything into a 24/6 schedule is really remarkable.
Back when I first joined the government, which was 1974, so really dating myself, the notion there were no very orthodox people in the government at all, at almost any level. Forget about even an assistant or deputy commissioner. So to move from that level to really probably the highest appointed position in the nation, really, other than elected president, is really remarkable. And it makes sense given his skill set, because he's non-ideological. He's really a guy who gets things done, and as a professional. I don't think he's looking at it as he's looked at either as a Jewish chief of staff or a non-Jewish chief of staff. He's the chief of staff. He's the person who gets things done, and he's very capable in that respect. So it's not surprising, but it definitely is something remarkable nonetheless.
When you look at the likes of, Joe Lieberman and Shelley Silver, now Jack Lew, and others who have, reached the sort of the pinnacle in terms of where they are in their political career, and at the same time be able to keep what's important and valuable to them on a religious level, I think that's a shining example to everyone, not just to Jews, but to non-Jews as well.
I think that people can look to him, younger people who are Orthodox, and say, look what has been achieved. We have a United States Senator who, as Jonathan said, might have been the Vice President of the United States, and we have a Chief of Staff to the President of the United States. I have a future here. I'm not worried about the fact that I'm Shomer Shabbos, that I eat kosher. I think that people feel much better now about what their prospects are within the governmental roles that they potentially might play.
You can view the rest of this panel in the weekly news category on the Jewish Channel on cable. That's all for this week. From all of us here at the Jewish Channel, be well. The Jewish Channel is available on cable. Time Warner Cable Channel 528, IO Optimum Channel 291, RCN Channel 268, Bright House Channel 330, Verizon Fios Channel 900, Cox Channel 1, Frontier Communications, and now on Comcast Cable in the on-demand menu under Premium Channels. For more information, visit tjctv.com.